A Pacific lecturer completing her master's degree in social work is diving into a thesis addressing the misinterpretation and misuse of biblical scriptures to gain power and control in relation to family violence. New Zealand is ranked as the worst developed country in the OECD for family violence. Genevieve Sang-yum is of Samoan and Chinese heritage and has run family violence programs for Māori and Pasifika female victims and perpetrators. She says she's concerned by the growing number of Pasifika men who migrate to New Zealand and have used Bible verses to justify committing acts of domestic violence against their partners. Alicia Foon spoke with Genevieve Sang-yum about her work in helping men reframe how they view scripture instead of weaponizing it to justify violence within families.
Hearing men address certain parts of the Bible, such as God created a woman from the rib of a man, we delve deep into having an open conversation about what that means to each of them. And the common response that came from the group was that because her role is to bear children and to help him to do what she's meant to be doing. And so when you pull that text out and highlight the word partnership, it shifts their thinking in terms of understanding what that interpretation of that specific text actually means. And I link that text to the equality wheel that's which is the wheel that was developed by the team at Duluth, Minnesota, and talk about what negotiation looks like in a relationship. My role as a program facilitator is to basically pull out the answers that they already know. They already know this stuff, but it's the influence where it is that came from. Whoever the influencer is that's teaching them these ways of understanding what this part of the text means is the reason why they're basically trying to use these texts to justify their actions. But when we delve deep into the particular text, when it says God saw that Adam needed a partner, therefore created him a partner. So we highlight the text of partnership and what that looks like in a relationship. And it really does shift their way of thinking. There's no aim to remove their belief in the Bible, but help them to understand what that interpretation means, because the Bible is harmless, but it depends on what part of the text you pull apart that helps fit your way of justifying your behavior. That's the dangerous part. But they are testimonies and stories of people's lives, and that's how people are interpreting specific text. They'll pull a specific text to say, see, this is what it means. This is why I do what I do, because this is what it says in the Bible, rather than exploring the whole interpretation and what the meaning of that text is about. So it's really good to hear when men bring out specific texts of the Bible. I don't pull them out. They bring it out themselves. And we have open discussions about it and ask what that means. And it's a very interesting space to be in. It's really good for me to learn from a male abuser's perspective. And these are our Pacific Island men who only know what they know.
Have you seen a change since having Talanoa with Pacific Island men about family harm and domestic violence? And is there a willingness to change and see a different point of view?
I believe for men who generally, especially our Pacific men, in specific sessions, I have observed that there's a bit of a surprise in terms of not knowing that what they're doing is wrong. I facilitated a program for one of the male abusers who was referred to a nonviolence program in relation to his assault to his partner in a public place, and a member of the public reported the assault to the police, hence how he ended up in the program. And he shared, I hit my partner because she's my partner. And so a lot of the men in the room would agree. And we'd have open discussions that to hear what their reasons are, because it's my right. She's my partner, and what issues I have with her is nobody else's business. And this is a Samoan man who is also he's a Christian person, but he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know any more than what he's been taught. It wasn't until we explored types of behaviors and abusive behaviors and exploring what the language of love looks like. Is it hurtful? Is it abusive? The more we delve deep into these conversations, the more they started to learn. So a lot of especially our male Pacific people who have just migrated from overseas, have only just discovered and learned about types of behaviors that are unacceptable. They believe that it's not abuse, that they're just their way of disciplining a woman or their partner because she didn't do as she's told. And in their upbringing, they believe that that's just a normal thing.
How do you change mindsets? How do you change generations into understanding what love really looks like and breaking those patterns of violence when I guess it is normal? But when it comes to women in relationships, we know that it's a huge issue in Aotearoa, New Zealand, possibly arguably even bigger in a lot of our Pacific Island countries as well. And so how do you change that? You've mentioned that this program helps people specifically who have been referred on to the police. But is there a bigger conversation that we need to be having here?
A lot of our male Pacific people probably have never had the opportunity to talk about their upbringing, talk about the trauma that they experienced in their lives growing up, talk about the influence or being told that you boys just take it by the chin and deal with it. A lot of these men suppress their issues because they've been taught that they need to just deal with it, and that women were taught, basically seen as the weaker ones because they show emotion. They show more emotion than men do. And it is the influence from society. It's the influence from your cultural upbringing. It's the influence from whoever in your family or your strong leader that shaped your understanding and your beliefs as to what's brought you to today. Storytelling, exploring of the world in these program sessions, rather than just getting them to define what family violence is. We need to delve deep through conversations, through cultural frameworks, understanding what these values look like to us as Pacific people, and specifically in your own ethnic space too. And learning about the languaging, because a lot of the biblical texts and how they've been interpreted, they can be misinterpreted depending on their own idea or definition of the use of language.